So, what do you think a South American agricultural giant and a South Asian manufacturing powerhouse have in common? I mean, on the surface, not a whole lot. They're literally on opposite sides of the globe. But if you look a little closer, you find this really fascinating economic partnership between Brazil and Bangladesh. It's one that completely defies geography, and honestly, it's built on pure, simple economic logic.
So that brings us to the big question, right? What in the world connects two countries with more than 15,000 kilometers of ocean between them? Well, the answer isn't about shipping routes. It's about how their economies are almost perfectly matched, kind of like two essential pieces of a giant global puzzle. So in this explainer, we're going to unpack how Bangladesh and Brazil have built this vital commercial link, and it's all based on a really powerful idea called strategic complementarity. It's an awesome story about turning that huge distance into a really unique kind of economic partnership.
And here it is, the core of the whole thing. It's so simple. On one side, you've got Brazil, this agricultural powerhouse, supplying the raw materials the world needs, like cotton. And on the other side, you have Bangladesh, a global manufacturing hub that takes those materials and transforms them into finished goods. It's a classic and really powerful synergy. Okay, so let's get down to the nitty-gritty. What does this trade actually look like? In terms of real products and actual numbers. This is where the big idea becomes a tangible flow of goods crossing continents.
Now, you see this number, $187 million in exports from Bangladesh to Brazil, and you might think, okay, but it's so much more than just a static number. This actually represents a steady, consistent push into Latin America's biggest market. The trend here is definitely pointing up, and it tells a story of growing ambition. And here's that two-way street in action. It's so clear, right? Brazil sends the foundational stuff, raw cotton, sugar, grains, and in return, Bangladesh ships out the finished products, the ready-made garments, textiles, and other goods. It's just a perfect picture of their economic synergy.
But here's the thing. While a lot of different goods are going back and forth, there is one specific commodity that really acts as the engine for this entire relationship. It's the fuel that powers the whole machine.
And yep, that engine is cotton. Brazil has just shot up to become a leading cotton supplier for Bangladesh. We're talking about roughly a quarter of all the raw cotton its massive textile sector needs. So this isn't just another trade item, it's a critical strategic input for Bangladesh's #1 export industry.
And look, you don't have to take my word for it. This quote from the analysis really hits the nail on the head. The cotton link isn't just important, it's strategically important. The quality and the reliability of Brazilian cotton has a direct impact on the competitiveness of literally every single garment factory in Bangladesh. But, any healthy relationship can't just rely on one thing. So while cotton is absolutely key, both countries are looking ahead. They're actively trying to diversify what they trade to build an even stronger, more resilient partnership for the future. So, for both countries, the path forward is all about moving up the value chain. For Bangladesh, that means selling more sophisticated, higher value apparel. And for Brazil, it's about exporting not just the raw commodities, but also things like processed food ingredients and industrial tech. But diversifying isn't as simple as just saying, hey, let's sell some new stuff. Cracking the Brazilian market is a real challenge. It's huge, but it's also incredibly complex. For an exporter from Bangladesh, it means navigating this maze of local rules, taxes, and logistics. That's why finding a strong local partner is absolutely essential to succeed. And yeah, let's not forget about that 15,000-kilometer distance. That creates some very real-world challenges in policy, logistics, and risk that businesses on both sides have to actively manage if they want to make it work. This kind of partnership doesn't just pop up out of nowhere. It's built on a really solid diplomatic foundation. Now, the relationship goes back decades, but the reopening of Brazil's embassy in 2009 was a huge moment. It signaled a renewed commitment to building the institutional ties that are just so crucial for long-distance trade. Of course, it's not all smooth sailing. There are definitely hurdles. Businesses have to deal with long shipping times. They have to understand the complex rules of Mercosur, that's South America's main trade bloc, handle currency swings, and, like we said, very carefully choose their local partners. Each one of those is a major challenge. But and this is a big but. There's something on the horizon that could be a total game changer. Bangladesh is looking into a trade agreement with the entire Mercosur bloc. If that happens, it could slash tariffs and other barriers, completely reshaping the economic landscape and putting this trade corridor into overdrive. So, when you put it all together, what does the future hold for this pretty unique partnership? Well, the outlook is surprisingly strong. It looks very, very durable. What's happening is the relationship is evolving. It's moving past simple buying and selling into what you could call a commercial corridor. And what that means is it's becoming this systemic, deeply integrated partnership that's anchored in the fundamental logic of each other's supply chains. It's just built to last. The durability of this whole thing really comes down to three core fundamentals. First, Bangladesh's need for cotton is high and it's stable. Second, Brazil's capacity to supply that cotton is large and it's growing. And third, the potential for both sides to diversify is clearly increasing. These are the pillars holding the whole thing up. So looking ahead, the next big phase of growth isn't going to depend on individual deals as much as it's going to depend on building better systems. We're talking stronger collaboration between governments, better market access through those trade agreements, and just smarter, more robust logistics planning from both sides. Which kind of leaves us with this final thought. The story of Bangladesh and Brazil really suggests that when the economic fit is right, when that strategic complementarity is strong, distance really does just become a number. It seems like a partnership built on logic can be way more powerful than one built just on location.